Well, good morning. I'm Bear, founder and CEO of RefugeMedical.com. And here's the brief for today. Bear Independent Brief for November 22. Washington was expecting a Chinese invasion of Taiwan to occur around 2027. In recent weeks, things appear to have changed. U.S. officials, including the Secretary of State, have been warning that China is speeding up plans to use force against the island country. The Chief of U.S. Naval Operations, Admiral Michael Gilday, said just last week that an invasion of Taiwan could happen as soon as this year. Quote, "What we've seen over the past 20 years is that they, China, have delivered on every promise they've made earlier than they said they were going to deliver on it. So when we talk about the 2027 window, in my mind, that has to be a 2022 window, or potentially a 2023 window," end quote. So, U.S. Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Michael Gilday is essentially saying that he expects China to invade Taiwan this year or next year. On Tuesday, veteran investor Kyle Bass commented that China could be preparing for an invasion within the next 2 years. In the mouths of 2 or 3, let a thing be established. This was based on the fact that Xi Jinping appears to have created a, quote, war cabinet, end quote, by replacing key positions in financial regulation, central banking, and economic policy with a spy chief, police chief, and a weapons manufacturer. Could this be nepotism? Yes, absolutely. Is nepotism rampant in China? Yep, for sure. Is it a potential indicator for us? Yep. Likelihood that something bad happens to the United States because of this. Low, comma. We're going to talk about nukes here in a moment. Also, you see this one hair right here? What's happening with this one hair? Can we get it? Got it. White hair. It's probably my oldest daughter's fault. Of course, this is coming from an investor, so the angle of focus was concerning the impact that an invasion would have financially. Bass said, quote, "It's clear as day what's happening. The problem is it puts the world in a very, very difficult position. I think that a major test is coming," end quote. The global markets would be in for a rough ride, as the issue of semiconductor supply would become key, especially because manufacturing facilities take roughly 5 years to build for semiconductors. The facilities currently under construction cannot be reasonably expected to fill demand if an invasion took place in the next 2 to 3 years. This concern, over 90% of the semiconductor supply, is part of what has led a group of 8 European lawmakers to visit Taiwan this week. In an internal document, the European External Action Service, which is a foreign policy arm of the European Union, called on member countries to aim for, quote, "de-escalation and dissuasion," end quote, with China. In contrast to the concern from Western officials, a minister at China's embassy in Washington said on Wednesday that Beijing had no time frame for unification, saying, quote, "I don't think there's any so-called timeline over the Taiwan issue," end quote. Depending on perspective, her following comments may not be so optimistic. Quote, "Some people are talking about 5 years, 10 years, 2035, 2049. I don't think so. We want to get united as soon as possible, but we don't have any timeline," end quote. Also this week in Asia, North Korea launched an unprecedented 23 missiles on Wednesday as the U.S. and South Korea conducted their joint Air Force exercises. The dictatorship also made veiled threats about using nuclear weapons. In a joint news conference with South Korea's defense minister and U.S. Defense Secretary, Defense Minister Jong-Sup Lee said, quote, "Any nuclear attack against the United States or its allies and partners, including the use of non-strategic nuclear weapons, aka tactical nukes, which are being downplayed around the world with the news media right now, saying, they're nukes, but they're not really nukes." Yeah, France has said, "We're not even interested. You blow up all the freaking tactical nukes you want, bro. Go for it. We don't care." Yeah. Blasé. Right? France don't care. So, Jong-Sup Lee said any nuclear attack against the United States or its allies and partners, including the use of non-strategic nuclear weapons, is unacceptable and will result in the end of the Kim North Korean regime, end quote. So much going on in the world, man. I want to give a quick shout out to Active Measures with Dustin Mascoro. It's a podcast, and I also believe a YouTube channel that I listen to fairly regularly. And this episode, right here, DHS hates free speech, Active Measures with Dustin Mascoro. Can you all see that? I've worked with Dustin a little bit as a guest when he was on Forward Observer. Really good dude, and I particularly enjoyed this episode because, in his own words, he was tired and salty, and so the commentary is excellent. If you're afraid of the occasional smattering of four-letter words, this is not the episode for you, but I actually enjoyed it. I felt like Dustin, came out of his strict on-the-air personality a little bit, and you could really get a feel for who he actually is. So I would recommend checking out Active Measures with Dustin Mascoro, Mascorro. He's also on Instagram and all of that, and that I have zero financial interest in telling you this. I like the guy, and I like what he's about, and he's putting good information out there. So you should check that out for sure. Tell him Bear sent ya. Ote? Let's do a little bit of additional intel from y'all, the Bear Nation, which if you have intel you'd like to share, the email is intel@bearindependent.com. From the Bear Nation, for the Bear Nation, for y'all, here's some valuable intel that didn't make it into the briefs this week for time's sake. Quote, "Good morning, Bear Nation. I'm currently donating blood at a mobile drive in South Texas. The nurse asked if I would be willing to donate red blood cells because they are short on whole blood bags." So, red blood cells rather than whole blood because they're short on bags. I agreed, but while they were getting me ready, I asked, "How bad is your bag shortage? Is it a local thing? Like you just need to restock?" And the nurse said, "It's bad. We have only 2 boxes of whole blood collection bags left, and we have another collection point tomorrow." She further stated that their bags are made in Puerto Rico, and after the hurricane hit, they can't get enough people to work in the factory. They're trying to get other manufacturers to supply their collection bags, but the FDA approval process is slowing down that process. And then another, which was received on the 31st, Halloween of last month. Another set of railroad tracks are out of commission now. On the Coos Bay rail line, which runs east-west through Oregon, there's a little side track where they often park a couple of cars full of lumber to wait for a longer train to come along and pick them up to travel onto Coos Bay so that the cargo can be loaded onto ships. While lumber is the largest percentage of cargo on these trains, other things like food and commodities also travel on these trains. Nothing is going to be moving for a while. It seems that the little tracks had lifted and leaned a bit. It's been like this for quite some time. Today, when they tried to pull the 2 cars off the little tracks with the longer train, the 2 cars fell off the tracks, leaning north, and fell onto the long train. Nothing is moving now. No idea how long it will take for them to do anything about it. So much for Biden's $3 trillion infrastructure bill. That's it for Extra Intel today. Like I said, if you'd like to be featured in the brief, intel@bearindependent.com is where you send that stuff. I would like to thank the patrons for supporting the show. We talked this morning on Patreon about the difference between leadership and coercion for your mutual assistance group, your teams, your tribes, your mags, your community watch, your faith group, whatever. Your group of people that you're doing life with, where's the line between leadership and coercion? That's on Patreon. And there's a link to Patreon in the description of every video and live stream. So appreciate the patrons. You are the economic engine of the Bear Nation. If you can't or won't be on Patreon, I understand. You could help us out by giving us one of those little thumbs up and potentially subscribing if you're new here. If you're not new here, you know what to do. Share the show with somebody that you love. Briefly, real quick, refugemedical.com. Today, the stud kit, which is Shears Tourniquet Utility Device. It is a nylon pouch that has a set of 7 3/4-inch shears in it, and a Committee on TCCC recommended windlass tourniquet in it is on sale, 20% off, as part of our Customer Appreciation Month leading up to Black Friday. It's a smoking freaking deal. Yesterday, we featured the bleeding control kits from North American Rescue, and I posted that on Patreon, and they sold out like that. So if you'd like to get a stud kit, today would be the day to do it. It's, like I said, it's a windlass tourniquet, soft tee, and a set of 7 3/4 inch or 7 1/4 inch North American Rescue shears, which we've had branded with the Refuge logo, for 20% off. Really good deal. So check that out, refugemedical.com. And then, of course, you know, if you're breathing and you have blood inside of your body, you need a trauma first aid kit. So I would recommend getting one. I have one on me. This is the ARC. And these are currently in production from our brother at Sojourn Gear. But I would recommend getting the SOB, small the back kit, if you're looking for something tactical. And if you're looking for everyday use on your rucksack, your minivan, your Black Hawk, check out the Bear Fac, and you can use promo code BearNation for free shipping on everything in the store. Refuge Training has new dates in the store. Tell City, Indiana is up. That's a Responder 1, Stop the Bleed March algorithm, situational awareness, and elevating to a higher level of care class, 4-hour classroom setting with lots of reps and sets on how to pack wounds, how to use tourniquets, how to use chest seals, what a nasopharyngeal airway is, how does that work, what's a sucking chest wound, open and close tension pneumothorax, blah, 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 all of that. And you actually use your stuff, unlike all the other bullcrap classes out there. That's Responder 1. Responder 2 is CPR and AED, and an introduction to scenario-based training, which has you using your trainer kit, which is included in the cost of the class, to work a car crash. That's a 4-hour class. And then Responder 3, which is a 10-hour, all-day, full-blown smoke session, force-on-force, civilian tactical medicine class. There's literally nothing else like it in the world. So, Tell City, Indiana is up. Boise, Idaho is up. I know a bunch of you Idahoans have been asking about classes, so Boise, Idaho is up. Check that out. And we've added dates in Waco, Texas, by popular demand. So if you're in South or Central Texas, Waco is your spot. I think there's one Responder 1 class left in Dallas, so check that out as well. Lastly, but not leastly, every one of y'all that supports Grindstone Ministries, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Couldn't do it without you. You are the people that enable us to be the hands and feet of the Most High. We have ongoing operations in Florida post-Hurricane Ian right now to repair, restore, remediate a house that was flooded that is owned by a Gold Star mother who lost her son in Afghanistan. I have guys that are heading down there. We have guys on site right now, and I have more guys that are heading down there within a couple of days to relieve those guys so we can continue making forward progress on that house. And then Caleb House, which is our restoration facility for juvenile human trafficking survivors, which is a bunch of $50 words for kids that have been serially raped by assholes. We have a restoration facility for those people that we're in the process of building. We also currently have 24 of those people in our care that we are meeting their every want and need inside of safe houses right now, keeping them safe and protected from the assholes that did bad things to them in the first place. And I will be at Caleb House this coming week on a dozer that one of y'all lent us. You're incredible, bro. Thank you for the dozer. I'll be on that dozer pushing dirt this coming week so that we can start pouring concrete. Praise the Most High. So thank you to every one of y'all that pours into us at grindstoneministries.com. We could not do it without you. I hope you all have a blessed day of prep. Have a happy Sabbath. Best audience on the face of the earth. Bless y'all. Shalom.